Hey, friends. So I want to talk a little bit about communicating with your psychologist during your benzo recovery. And, I've seen a lot of people talking in the threads and even in the comments and things that psychology, psychologists, clinical psychologists, therapists, they don't do anything for benzo withdrawal. They can't. And I got to say, I wholeheartedly disagree. I think there's a lot that they can do. But I will say, I don't think a lot of them, well, I know a lot of them are not benzo familiar. Not so much. I would argue, and this has been my experience, that clinical psychologists, particularly clinical psychologists, opposed to just a master level mental health therapist, not to put them down in any way, but a clinical psychologist has a little more experience and usually a lot more training, things like that. They're a little bit, but even on the level of a mental health therapist, at a master's level education, they're still, I find, more benzo aware than most medical doctors, or so they let on, right? Which is a whole nother topic. But anyway, but that's not entirely important, right? I mean, if you get a clinical psychologist, you have a good relationship with them, you're trying to get them up to speed, which is a good thing to do, to say, hey, I'm going through benzos. Are you familiar with benzo withdrawal? They go, not really. Okay, well, here's some information, about it. This is what it can do. Here's a list of side effects, this and that. I would say, guys, keep it short. I think a lot of us come in with too much information. We're all over the place. We're anxious and we're emotional. But I think just to come in with, like, your best bet is to find a Wikipedia or some kind of article that seems legit, a peer-reviewed journal or something. Maybe go to Google Scholar, find something benzos, something current, and say, hey, look at this. These are the symptoms, and this is what the AMA, APA are saying about it. Concisely get that information within 5 minutes to your doctor. I think is the best way to go about it. They can then go home that night if they're worth their weight in anything. They will go home and get online and do their own research, But try to get them up to speed. That's the best you can do. After that, just remember, guys, and this is the heart of what I'm trying to say in this video, ultimately, they don't need to be able to empathize directly with what you're going through. And that's true, because many psychologists, for many conditions in whatever they're treating, they're not going to be able to anyway. If you were in war and you experienced great atrocities in war, if you were raped or molested, if you almost died from a rare disease, or whatever the thing you're going through, whatever, insert one of a million things you could be going through that affected your mental health, they're likely not to know that and not have that experience anyway, right? So it's not about that. They don't need to go, oh, I was in Vietnam. Now I directly know exactly what you're going through. It's not important. The important thing is, do you have the resources to help me work through what I'm going through? I mean, can you at least relate to, as a technician, find what is wrong with me? What is the areas I need help in? And can you help me with some kind of orientation, psychological orientation, some kind of scientific approach? Help me change that. And I mean approach by, there's a lot of lazy psychologists out there, and they just listen to you talk. They just go, okay, yeah, go on. Nope, that's our hour. And they hide behind that because they say, well, the data does show that people feel better talking. But it's like, you didn't go to school for 10 years for that. I could have listened to people talk before I went to school for psychology. I was a good listener, and I could have just sat there and been an ear and been supportive. And nodded, and that's not what it's about, though. I mean, if you take something like CBT alone, right? Now you got psychodynamic approach, which is like the Freudian Freudian-esque approach, and you have CBT, more behavioral leaning. Both of them have a powerful influence over mental health and mental illness, right? But you have to be using it in a way that's conducive to the literature. I'll say it that way, right? So let's take something like CBT, right? CBT is not just about listening to your client or your patient talk about their problems and then letting them feel better. It's about finding where their irrational thoughts, where the faulty belief is, where they're not seeing something correctly, and helping them realign their perception correctly, as to not continue to feed that deficit in their mental health, right? So if you're looking at it, let's say, here's a good example, right? You're going through benzo withdrawal, and you say, it starts with a thought. You say, man, I don't know if I'm going to heal from benzos. After enough time and looking on forums and confirmation bias, which is what happens on a lot of these groups. You're seeing all these horror stories. You start to now not think that you're not going to get better. You start to believe you're not going to get better because you have all this evidence around you that seems to support that, right? So now the thought has evolved into the belief. I don't believe I'm going to get better. Well, that has a dramatic impact on your mental health, on serotonin, on dopamine, oxytocin. I mean, it has it becomes self-sustaining, self-fueling at that point now, that you're stuck in this loop of negativity and this downward spiral, essentially. And a lot of it's based cognitively. It's not just based in the suffering and everything from, direct benzo withdrawal, which, again, becomes a confirmation bias, because if every day you feel bad and things don't seem to be getting better, that's only supporting that initial thought that then became the belief, I'm not going to get better. Forums, you're not going to get better. I'm not going to get better. Despair. I mean, just saying, I don't think I'm going to get better. Just saying, I don't think I'm going to get better. There's a chemical change in the body and the brain. There's a feeling. You feel it. There's a sadness. There's a despair. There's a sickness. There's an anger. There's all of this chemical stuff going on there. And if I say to you, guys, rest assured, you will heal. You will heal. And you start to feel better about it. You actually have a little glimmer of a hope, and you feel like, oh, what if he's right? There's a feeling there. There's a chemical reaction there that caused that feeling, right? That's why you felt better. It's not just thoughts and chemistry go hand to hand. So the more negative we think, the darker we think, the darker our chemistry, the worse things get. The more positive we think, and having hope and having belief that there is a chance that we get better, it can lift and elevate our chemistry, right? Now, just in a nutshell, that's just one little tiny aspect of CBT, right? And so if you have a good therapist, his or her goal is to help align your perception, find the faulty thoughts, like little weeds in the garden, and help you pluck them and see the right way and keep your perception on the straight and narrow and moving forward. And if you can do this and keep sustaining this, your chemistry will start to get better. They've done enough research on this. I mean, this isn't pseudoscience, So anyway, I'm just trying to offer a little bit of validation for something like CBT. Now, Psychodynamic works a little bit differently in a sense that with Psychodynamic, you're processing things, and simplistically, this may look like listening to someone talk about it, but it's not. It's not that simple. You're helping them process. You're gently guiding them with a psychological orientation in mind. This theoretical orientation that sort of protects and drives the therapy. You're driving them to a point where they can safely explore things, and in accordance with CBT, in a very similar way, help them realign their belief. It's about changing beliefs, guys. That's what I'm trying to say here. Ultimately, counseling, therapy, coaching, I'm trying to help you guys change your belief. And I'm doing that by helping you change your thoughts, and I'm doing that by helping you change the symbolism behind the thought or the belief. Are you someone who was screwed over, victimized, and this always happens to you? I have a low, locus of control. The world's out to get me. Everything sucks. I'm never going to get better. I should just throw in the towel now. Is that how you symbolize and frame what you're going through? Because that's a real problem. And nobody can really blame you. It's not like it's your fault. I mean, God, who could blame you for feeling these things? On the other hand, are you someone that looks at it and says, this sucked. This is just crap. This should not have happened to me. But you know what? I refuse to lay down and die. I am going to fight this thing. This is a challenge, and I can beat this. I can beat this. I'm going to figure out how to beat this. I'm going to study this. I'm going to do the things that I need to do to get better. And when I come out of this, I'm going to be smarter, more resilient, more empathic, and I'm going to try to make a change. And I'm going to come out of this a version 2.0 of myself. Challenge accepted. Let's go. How do you see this? It's so damn important to how you're going to approach the fight, or if you're even going to fight. Now, from my perspective, I encourage you guys to fight, obviously, because I see virtually everybody I've worked with have improved, and most of them have gotten completely better. Everybody's timing's different, and the road is never a straight line, absolutely, and it requires a dynamic lifestyle change. Hear what I'm saying? Benzo recovery is not easy. It's the hardest damn thing on the planet, but it's doable. it's doable, and it's a direct promise to you, based and not rose-colored glasses or wishful thinking, or I'm not trying to just be positive guy. That's what I've seen. That's what the literature supports. That's what the numbers support. We do get better, and we need more of that. We need to know that so we can believe and change. Now, back to the topic on hand, because I'm wonderful at deviating a point and rambling off, but there's always, I always try to bring it back. Is a psychologist worth pursuing? I think so. Now, you don't have to be able to, the psychologist doesn't need to have gone through benzos. They don't even need to be able to write a dissertation on benzos. But I think what's important is that we are able to articulate to the psychologist what we need, right? So if I'm coming in and I'm ruminating with the thought, I don't know if I'm going to get better, that's something a psychologist, even a psychologist not even that great, just a basic trained guy, a girl, could take that and say, okay, I know what to do with this. I can work with that. I have an orientation. I can work with that. I don't need to have gone through benzos firsthand, but I can work with you on that. Let's start working on that. Or maybe it's sleep, or maybe it's symptoms, or maybe it's, anger from what happened to you. They can help you process that anger. They can help you deal with symptoms. They can help you talk with your doctors, your family. They can help you find purpose. They can help you change the symbolism of what you're going through. And they can help realign your perception to a healthier perception. And not only that, they can do things like help you with deep breathing, which is wonderful. And I'll get into that in another video, because that's one of those hot topics, right? I've had clients say right out the gate, the next person that tells me to do deep breathing, I'm going to choke. So, anyway, I digress in this long, rambling video. If you're thinking of finding a clinical psychologist, or if you have one, I do think they're amazing. I think in the perfect world, anyone going through this should have a good therapist. But, you have to find the right fit. You got to find look, there's bad doctors everywhere. There's bad psychologists. Unfortunately, there's just bad people at jobs. There's people that might be not that educated, or maybe they just weren't a good fit. Maybe they got into psychology for the wrong reasons, or maybe you just don't fit. It's just not a good relationship. Find someone that's knowledgeable, at least in being able to treat what you're going for. Not benzos per se, but if you say, look, my problem is rumination, find a psychologist that says, hey, I'm an OCD coach, or I'm great at health anxiety or dealing with rumination. I can help you with that. Sure, let's deal with that. So I find it's best to just know how to talk to your psychologist and articulate what you're after. I mean, I think sometimes we just go in there, more times than not, and we're overwhelmed, and we just go, help me, here I am, help me. And look, I can tell you, just as a coach, when people come to me like that, you have to go through a mountain of information to try to figure out, how do I help them? What do they need help? Do they know what they need help in? Benzo recovery. Okay, well, that's a enormous topic, but what in particular? Because everybody's different. I got clients that are not dealing with rumination, but they have, oh God, they're angry. I got clients that are not even really anxious, but they're so depressed and they can't sleep. And I got clients that sleep great and they're not depressed, but they have agoraphobia. So you're finding, what do they need, or they have some pre-existing trauma, or something is going on there, and our job as a coach or a therapist is sort of to get into the weeds and figure out how to be effective. And it's just so much easier when a client can come and say, here's what I'm going through. Maybe you can't directly relate, but here's what I'm going through, and here's what I'm most struggling with, and could you help me with just these things? And from there, even if you get a therapist and they're not able to help you with those things, don't give up. Find another therapist. And we would do it with our medical doctors, right? Why not? Get a second opinion. Do some more research. And now with the way things are changing, you don't even have to have therapy and get a therapist that's, within 50 miles of where you live. I mean, you can actually have a good therapist, out of state at this point. I mean, there's a lot of resources out there, and there's a lot of reviews and things like that. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on clinical psychology and how it can be effective, and how we can better talk to our doctors to try to get the help we need. So I hope that helps, guys. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, maybe leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I appreciate all the support. Helps me get this channel out there to more people. All right, guys. Till the next time. Much love.
It could be possibly my last day.